Good morning. Welcome in on this Thursday to 104.5 The Zone. Hope you're feeling right, living well. Happy to have you guys until 1 o'clock here with us. Us being Lucas Panzica back there making it go. Ramon Foster is going to be back in studio momentarily because it is Tennessee-Florida hate week. He has much to discuss, and also his Steelers play the Browns on Thursday Night Football this evening. So maybe the Browns are 4.5-point favorites, I saw. I don't know how Ramon feels about that. I don't know if they've gone through that already at length in the fastest 4 hours of radio, but certainly we will address it in about 18 minutes from now. Your phone calls always welcome. We have Titans tickets, by the way, for you to win. Not now. Don't do it. Don't do it yet.
Don't you dare pick up that phone.
Step away from the iPhone. We don't have them to give to you yet. But in the noon hour today, I have 2 tickets to Titans and Raiders that we will give to you. We will get there eventually. Do not bombard Lucas yet.
I won't answer it. I won't do it.
Although, if you piss me off, I may just start doing that for fun.
Just giveaways we don't even have.
That's right.
Oh, what's this? Super Bowl tickets?
There's a leftover Hardee's bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit in here. 615-737-1045. Don't toy with me. Don't turn my microphone off again.
Well, I would eat the biscuit before anybody won it.
No, I'm well aware. I'm just waiting for you to come in here and clean up what remains. But in the meantime, it has been a bit TMZ-ish lately with the injury reporting around the Tennessee Titans. Did you see this picture that was circulating of Lawan at BNA last night?
Yeah, spotted.
No, not even spotted. Caught.
Caught. Yeah, that makes it sound so much worse, like he's up to something.
So here's the, because everybody's still awaiting a situation with both Taylor Lawan, who at the time, at Monday night, Tuesday morning, potentially feared season ending. They've done more testing since then. He is going for another outside evaluation. He was on his way to get the outside evaluation yesterday. He's going to get it today and then return at some point with more information on the knee. And then, of course, there's Bud Dupree, who was ruled out, not ruled out in the game, ruled as questionable in the game with a hip issue, did not practice yesterday. But we have gone full TMZ in the injury reporting of this. And there's an account called Two Tone Blue Nation on Twitter that took a picture about 6:45 p.m. last night. It's a picture of a giant human being with a sleeve on his right leg, a roller suitcase, and a bunch of tattoos, an above-average-sized human being, and, in one of these For the Boys baseball caps or trucker hats that Lawan likes to wear. Now, we don't see him in his face, but by size, it is reasonable to assume that this is Taylor Lawan. The account tweets, Lawan was just caught flying to LAX, sleeve on his knee, #Titans, and then the account tags me, Kaharski, and Teron Davenport with the injury update. Now, caught seems a bit dramatic, but in fairness, the situation has felt a bit dramatic because Lucas was helping me plan the show this morning, as we often usually do, and he said, What did you say to me about the Lawan stuff? Be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared for if Lawan is to come back within a few weeks and the people coming at you for reporting that he is likely done for the season.
Sure. I think that's reasonable. But I feel like I'd do that again because that was the information at the time. I thought it was relevant. I still think it's relevant. I think it's even more interesting that we don't know what the hell's going on and he got carted off with this knee injury, where clearly something's gone wrong in there that doesn't allow him full function of his knee, if in fact that is the case, and that he's having to fly to Los Angeles for knee specialist help. Which, by the way, we talked about yesterday because I knew that he was going to make this trip at some point. He didn't obviously practice yesterday and now on his way to Los Angeles. But I guess, it's just about discerning. Do you want to know that it's potentially season-ending at the time, or would you rather just have the result when Adam Schefter eventually tweets it 3 days later?
So you don't feel like you jumped the gun at all?
No, I don't think so. Because it was feared a potentially season-ending injury. I still think that's in play if he's going through all of this rigorous testing. Now, I think Had it just been a re-tearing of the ACL, we would know by now. Like, those things are very routine. Medical staffs are able to handle this. The fact that we don't know the extent of what exactly has gone wrong in there is the bigger question. But I still think it's relevant. So we'll continue to monitor it, and we'll see how long he ends up missing. Mike Vrabel would not say who is going to start at left tackle yet as of yesterday. He said that Dennis Daly in the Bills game was always going to be the plan in a backup situation. He did not say that they are prepared to make a decision at left tackle as of Wednesday afternoon. So we will continue to see how this thing goes. Also of note is Bud Dupree. Actually, so you were scared to read this Will Compton tweet because I saw this. I quote tweeted it and I said, "Caught seems a tad extreme for somebody who's just out on the West Coast seeking a second opinion." And Will took the picture and tweeted something that I thought was funnier than the initial statement of caught, even as I found that a bit funny as well. Are you scared to read this on air because you feel your professional broadcasting career is at risk if you say a couple of these words?
It would be completely ruined. No,
would it?
No, I don't care. But you go ahead.
Oh,
Scared? No. Me? No, you do it. No, I mean, you're the one that's always going on about how you hate bathroom humor.
I do hate bathroom humor, which is
now
why
it's funny.
But no, I mean, it's funny because of the extremes that this has gone to, right?
It is
because
funny.
we're TMZing Taylor Lewan and his poor wife as they walk to the airport to figure out what the hell's wrong with his knee. You know? Like, that's kind of the place that I'm at with this. So when Will takes the same picture, does not credit the account, which I'm sure the account is pissed about, even though they put a watermark on, like they put a logo watermark on the picture. Did you see this?
No.
I go back and look at the.
I see it.
There's a big old.
That's hilarious.
Hey, good marketing, heady play, because it definitely got shared around. But so Compton takes this same picture and tweets: Taylor Lewan caught running through the airport, no limp. Did 4 pass sets at the Hudson News Store. Said his shoulder feels fine. Took a dump in the second D gate bathroom. Sources say. That's what you were scared of?
Hit the dump.
I don't like bathroom humor, typically, but that made me laugh. 615-737-1045. We're going to talk about what the Titans need to do. 2 areas of concern that Greg Cosell and I broke down yesterday as a part of the Install podcast. You're going to hear some Greg analysis later on in the show, but we'll go to the phones. In the meantime, Phil is in Portland up next.
Hey, Bucky, thanks for taking my call today, man. Listen, I don't know, man. First of all, let me just say this in your defense. I think the fact that they ask you, did you jump the gun, it's kind of insulting. And I say that because you're talking about one personnel here in Nashville, Tennessee since Jerry House. So I think they owe you a little bit of respect to that. But then when I say that, Buck, I don't know if I'm insulting you by asking you, do you now think, after watching the Titans get whooped up the way they did, is it now fair to say that we are expecting too much out of them? I think that they're worse off than what we all realize. I think that this ain't going to be fixed within 1 or 2 years, and I'm wondering if we need to go ahead and trade Derrick Henry next year to start a rebuild. That's my question to you. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks for the call, Phil. So the first part, I mean, I appreciate the defense, but I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. That's a part of the job. Like, anytime you're in a situation like that, you'd better be buttoned up. In the same way that we hold players and coaches and things like that accountable, so too should we be held accountable in situations like this. So I appreciate the sentiment, Phil, but it's not that deep. The expectations thing. So that was Phil's whole thing maybe 2 weeks ago. Was this before the season started that Phil called us and said, or no, after the Giants game, where he called and said, maybe our expectations for the Titans are just too high. And I found that kind of ridiculous at the time, because I look at what the situation for them is, and I do think that after Buffalo, I felt differently. Now, the expectation should be that the coach of the year, the most transcendent running back in the last, decade at least, since Adrian Peterson, basically, and a core of players who have worked well in conjunction with some additions that make sense for what it is that they do. Now, I think the injury situation so early on has really derailed them because you cannot have Joe Jones playing in games on the edge against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills because Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, and Ola Adeni, to some extent, are missing significant time throughout the course of that game. They didn't have anything on defense either. Outside of being, really, really ineffective on offense. It was close in the second quarter, to their credit, and then things really, really just derailed.
There is a difference, though, between expectation and standard, right? Like, I think those conversations can be different. And if your expectations are lower than the standard that this team has established of being a contender, a playoff team year in and year out, then that's a problem.
Yes, because here's what I came away from the Buffalo game thinking. I came away, and I think I said this on Tuesday after the game. Like, I bought what they were selling. I bought a team that was selling off parts that should have been more egregious to me in real time. I do give them the benefit of the doubt more often than not. I think they've earned it over the last, this is year 7 for John and year 5 for Mike. So let's say the last 5 years with the two of them working together, I do believe that they have deserved the benefit of the doubt in most circumstances. And then when they look like that against not just the Super Bowl favorites, but a team in their conference who it is likely they would see if they were even to make the postseason at this point, a team that they would see very early on in the postseason, I don't think they're 41-7 bad, but I do think that I bought a little too much of what it is that they were selling for a couple of reasons that we're going to address that I didn't foresee. And based on their results so far, it doesn't seem like they foresaw these issues either, which is a bigger issue. We'll get more of your phone calls coming up next. Ramon Foster is going to be here in studio. We'll talk Vols and Gators. We'll talk Titans, and we'll see what he thinks about Thursday Night Football tonight. That's up next on 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. We have Ramon Foster in studio. We also have an intruder who does a radio show with Ramon Foster from 6 to 10 a.m. on these very same Nashville and Middle Tennessee airwaves. Will Bowling is here.
Hello.
Well.
Good morning. It's
What
still morning.
It is still morning, yes. It's a different kind of morning than the two of you experienced, but it is still morning indeed.
I'm here because I'm sitting in the same seat that Josh Pate was sitting in yesterday. Our good friend, 247 Sports, does a great job. And you're going through all of these shows that are going to be in Knoxville this weekend. You're like, oh, Barstool's going to be there. College Game Day is going to be there. You're going to be there. Lucas and I are going to be there. Crickets. So, yeah, a lot of people are going to be there with no mention that the 104.5 The Zone that your teammates that are before and after you.
We were just talking about unnecessary emails. I didn't open an email.
There you go. But me, Ramon, and Ron Slay are going to be, just living it up on Calhoun's on the River, which you guys are invited, by the way, if you would like to come and drink beer and talk football with us.
Free snacks. Last year was pretty dope, too.
Wait, are you alleging that I can drink beer and talk football? Or are you trying to get me to talk football and then I can drink beer afterwards?
No. When you go anywhere in Knoxville with Ramon and Slay, it's like the Pied Piper. Like, people are just walking up, like they're kissing babies, they're signing things, they're drinking. Like, they bought us like a plate of burnt ends last year at Calhoun's.
It's not on the diet
that
plan,
were
Ramon.
so good. I really don't care.
Monday.
Buck, tailgate calories don't count. They count half. So you're good. Like, I'm doing you a favor.
Okay.
At this point.
So, what is the information, Ramon, that people need to know about this party at Calhoun's prior to all the other parties taking place, and then, of course, the game?
That's how you know it's a big
a lot
weekend.
going on.
It's just like everybody got something. Everything is going to be packed with something, too. But we're hosting from 12 to 1:30 with a pregame show at Calhoun's on the River, the one that's right behind the stadium next to TBA. It was a great time last year. It'll be a great time this year, man. It's everywhere is sold out. Parking passes are $500. Tickets are over $1,000 a piece. Everybody that I know that is free is going to be there. Calhoun is one of those places I love. In general, in college, I went there on my recruiting visit and everything. It's just a good time. See the Vol Navy. I'm pulling guys as much as I can to come by, drop by for a little bit. We might get you a shot. On company card.
I'm not taking one.
I drink Don Julio 1942 for anybody asking.
Well, let's lower that expensive taste just a little bit. This is SEC football, not the NFL. Let's tone it down just a touch.
I got high expectations is all I'm telling you, man. Our guy Kevin, man, from Spring Hill Heating and Cooling said he was going to stop by.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Almost anybody that's a Vol fan or at least intrigued by this game is going to be around.
I've never been compelled to go to a college football game in my life. Not once.
Not even Ole Miss last year with how that was talked.
Well, no, you could have talked me into because Lane Kiffin is always I take it back. You're correct.
Yeah.
This one I tried to find any way, shape, or form I could get into that stadium because the significance of 16 of the last 17 games between Tennessee and Florida ending in Florida's favor is significant. The fact that you, as a starter, I know you beat them your redshirt year.
Yeah, my redshirt.
Your redshirt year. But you, as a starter, went through 4 years of college without beating Florida. So many different things of this for me, and the environment that, I don't know why I've noticed college football environments more now than at any other point in my life, maybe because the pandemic just sucked the life out of them.
Right.
And as they start to kind of become again what they are supposed to be, that, and I watched the Manti Te'o doc again last night just for kicks because my girlfriend hadn't seen it yet. And if it's on her radar, anything sports related, it's something that we're going to be able to watch together. I have never been as excited to go or be around an atmosphere, probably since the Titans were in the 2019 playoffs and I was covering, Brady's last game. Lamar goes down as the 1 seed, and then, what happened in Kansas City happened. But still, it's going to be pretty unique.
It is, man. And like you said, the history of it, number one. And it's a bunch of teams pandering for number 2 or 3 on the SEC East side of things. And Florida being known for who they are and what they've done and how they've gone about being a sustainable program through many coaches, always just been big brother to what Tennessee has been. Trust me, Buck, I remember those games. I remember what they were at Tennessee, 16-7 when Tennessee was rated really high in 2005. I'm looking at these scores now, 21-20, okay, in 06. And there's been a bunch of those. And then that 59-20 game in which Florida, I think that was the year in 07, they went and won the did they win the national that year? Either way, they was really good. No, we played in the SEC championship that year.
Sorry, what year, Moan?
That was 07.
Yeah, the SEC title game, Outback Bowl.
That was our year. But what did Florida end up doing that year?
Oh no, they won the national. No, LSU won the national championship.
Yes,
Florida won it in 2008 when they beat Bama in the SEC championship.
Yeah, but they've just been that, and of course, I think the time in which we're in right now, where Tennessee actually feels like, all right, you got a coach that's stable, you got a quarterback that you like and you trust. And you got your favorite by what, 10.5, 9.5?
I saw it at 10 yesterday. I think it's moved down to 9.5 because that number felt big for a lot of people.
Right.
I think it may end up being bigger.
Hey, Todd Furman dropped this stat, gave it to 3HL yesterday. I couldn't believe this was real, but he said that Tennessee has not been favored by more than a touchdown over Florida since 1976.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I had the same reaction. Like I did not do the research that Furman probably did, but I could not bring myself to believe that that's real.
Since the 1970s?
Is Condredge Holloway the quarterback in 76? Like,
think about it. Yeah.
So this is a lot of expectations.
It is.
A lot of hype and a lot of pressure, but that was the thing that I think impressed me most about the Pittsburgh game, because it's not the same. It is a quote-unquote rivalry. It's the Johnny Majors Bowl, whatever you want to call it, and these two teams have some kind of connectedness or connectivity to them,
right.
But this is different. This is your most hated nemesis in the SEC East, the division in which you play, and they have owned you for quite some time, and now everybody is looking at you and saying, all right, it's your turn.
Go do it. And that's what it is, Buck. And you look at all the scenarios and all the excuse making that can be made around why Tennessee hasn't won consistently. Coaches, okay, let's go to Dooley's situation. This is a head case from the get-go. Well, even before that, let's go to Lane. One and done, out of there, and resets you with Dooley.
He promised to win, too.
What did he do? What was that, 2009? Lost 23-13.
He promised to beat Florida.
Oh, yeah. He said, we're going to be singing Rocky Top the whole way home. And to his credit, they competed against a really good, national championship level Florida team.
Number one Florida.
I know a lot of Vols fans still hate him, but I love that Lane Kiffin is the only coach willing to get out there and thump his chest a little bit. It just bothers me that nobody else has that kind of those stones.
Well, he doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. But he's at a place where he can't really do it, though. The draw of what Mississippi is, just don't allow that to happen. But he is who he is.
Sure.
He's doing all right now. But you look at the coaches that happened from Dooley to Butch, and then Bush to Pruitt. It's just like, what are we doing here? And I think that's why Tennessee fans are feeling a little bit excited about this one, because you got a guy that looks boring. But he should look boring to us. But if you see him in the locker room, I saw him after the Pitt game. We got full access that weekend. Okay, it was a great.
You look at you.
Let me toot my horn real quick. We got sideline, both sides, field passes, locker room passes. We got everything. And going into that locker room, the way those guys were attracted to him and his means of celebrating with them, hugging guys, side five, and we missed his post game speech. But you want a boring head? What is Vrabel? Boring head coach when he's talking to us, right? When he's talking to you guys. But in that locker room and how he deals with his players is totally different. You hear the same thing about Saban. So when you get a sense of stability, you get an opportunity to say, all right, we feel very confident about where we are right now. But it's Florida, and that's where that battered Vols syndrome's kind of just come up and play a little bit.
I heard them workshopping in the green room a battered Vols syndrome commercial. When can we expect the fine production that the show has become known for over a year and a half that we've been on the air?
Yeah, our deep production team is working hard on it now, just cracking away, and I think we'll have something tomorrow. It's a real thing, though, battered Vol syndrome, and it's on full display this week. It's like this combination of confidence, because you know you are the better team, you're the favorite, you should win, but also this pent-up frustration and aggression from the last few years is all mixed together, and it's just going to spill out in Neyland Stadium on Saturday.
Look at him. He's foaming at the mouth back there.
Look at him.
I'm scared, Moan.
But it's not.
Hold me.
It's not just that, though. It comes from the outside. That was one of our conversations this morning was, I was listening to 3HL yesterday, and Babsy, your favorite teammate here.
Okay, I love Dawn. Dawn may not love me all the time, but I love Dawn. I got no problems with Dawn. She's just wrong a lot.
And then this one, I felt like she was wrong on it, though. And of course,
shocking.
I'm stupid. With that being
I love you,
said, it was, and I love you too, Don. But it's this though. It's all right. If Tennessee does good, that team sucked. All right, you beat Kentucky last year. Well, it's Kentucky. No, Kentucky's a good team. Pitt was a good team this year. But if we beat somebody, it's like, well, that was a good loss for them. And not just a good win for Tennessee. So it's a bunch of those things that I think where Vols fans get into that BVS, battered Vols syndrome complex that you kind of have a little bit. It's like you're always fighting off somebody. But I was talking to Ron, and I'm sure you're probably going to hit off this too. If Tennessee's good, it's good for football. But the thing is, for Tennessee's opponents, it's bad for them. Because the one thing I learned about going to the University of Tennessee was this. It's a melting pot of every other state's talent. And if you can sew up the talent in this state, which is a bunch of 4 stars, 5-star, 2 here or there, but then you recruit the Carolinas, Virginia, you tap into Georgia, you go to Alabama, you're able to go to Florida and get a player or two from California, that's been a recipe. One thing you've been able to do over the last decade plus is crap on Tennessee. Oh, you don't want to go there? Come to us. And then you take the in-state talent, which we've seen. We saw the kid from Martin last year. Go where? Go to Martin.
Yeah.
We see big-time prospects in the middle Tennessee. Go to Kentucky. Go to Georgia. Go to Miami. Go to Oregon. You can't even keep them in the state. Well, if you get some of that, and I think fan bases of other teams find themselves saying, just crap on Tennessee as much as you possibly can. Maybe that's just me and my BVS too, though.
Well, it's a different kind of BVS. So I got 2 different kinds of symptoms. I've got woe begone, I'm going to concerts in Puerto Rico during Alabama week because I don't want to watch my football team embarrass themselves yet again. That's him. No! That is correct. He leaves the area. He goes off the grid during Alabama week just so he can go out. What happened to you last year? Because your concert got canceled.
Yeah.
It's
last
like
year
that.
I had Chris Stapleton tickets, Moan, and he got laryngitis, so I had to watch the game. Yeah, I had to watch the game. Well, it rescheduled. I went to the show in December. It was great. But this year I'm going to Puerto Rico that week.
So that's one case of symptoms. And then you're the other, which is, all right, I hear you. I see you.
Yeah.
I understand the circumstance, but also bleep you because we're coming for your stuff this year.
That's me.
I know. Listen, I diagnosed.
Go dark mode over
Dr.
there.
Buck in the house.
There's different variants of BVS. Is it too soon for that?
Well, the president on 60 Minutes the other day has already declared an end to one pandemic. Perhaps the BVS pandemic is the next one.
Oh, that's been raging.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But I look at this, and Lucas, we had discussed this yesterday about what their greatest matchup advantage is against Florida. And it almost seems like they have to let Anthony Richardson continue to play the way that he's been trying to play, which is not running the football nearly as often, trying to protect himself and trying to become more of a conventional passer. Now, I don't know all the reasons why that's happening in real time, but it hasn't proved effective for him or them as a result. Beyond that, what do you kind of see? Or is that the thing that they have the best opportunity to exploit, even as their defense is not something that we would regard as top tier in college football, much less the SEC?
If they're smart, they do RPOs. They give it to Trevor Etienne, okay, because he's the guy that got them going last week, and they'll be idiots not to explore that again. Their rushing game is okay. If you put it into Anthony Richardson's hand, if that knee issue is what it is post that Kentucky game, if you do some of the things that South Florida did to him, then that means a big L for Florida. If they control the line of scrimmage, which
a big L.
I mean, look at it. They play. If it wasn't for the turnovers that they had against South Florida wins that game.
Yeah.
I had one of my good neighbors.
Well, they were a field goal away at the end from at least tying it.
They should have made that kick, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I had one of my neighbors text me, former Titans player Kevin Long. His son plays at South Florida, and I'm texting him like, man, they about to get him. He's like, if they continue to let that quarterback throw the ball, we win. What happened? They put it on the ground, and they let Trevor Etienne eat up the clock. If that Vols defense front line can stop them, and also this too, as much as we're piling on to what Anthony Richardson is, if they keep him in the pocket up front, and you got guys like Tyler Barron that can get to him, you got guys that can, force him to scramble. And if he does have a bad will, that could be a long day for him, because this is the thing about that offense as far as the Vols go too. Them being able to spread you out exposes a lot.
Yeah.
It really does. And if Florida can't stop the nosebleed as far as a run goes, you know what I'm saying? You can get yards on the ground at a steady pace of 3, 4, 5, 6 at a tote. Then that puts a lot of angst on their secondary in the effect that, look, they got to continue to watch the backfield and keep run support. Because if you get to the second level, then it's you eat all day. So I got my eyes on Richardson. I'm not out on what he's capable of doing.
No, I don't think any smart consumer of this stuff would be outright out on him. I think the Heisman stuff was far too premature, obviously.
Do you think going up to 12 was way too much? From unranked to 12 because you beat Utah?
Well, and I voiced my disdain for how irrelevant these things are in the AP Top 25 poll. When we get to the end of the season, it doesn't even matter at the end. It doesn't.
But it's crazy, though. Like I said, the differences between programs of what they are on the surface level, though. Florida's unranked. And then they go beat the number 7 team. Naturally, I would have thought, you beat the number 7 as an unranked team. I think, and if you look down that ranking, I think they were like 26 or 27. Mm-hmm. But you bump them up to 12. Why they go to 12? Because they're Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Naturally, I would have put them at 18 to 23. Simply because that's what the metric says you're supposed to go to. But they get the benefit of the doubt. Tennessee, on the other hand, is just like, it's the crap show.
Well, they shouldn't. Respectfully, they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, no, legitimately. But it's the idea of like wins against who you're playing against, whether you're beating Ball State or Akron convincingly, covering the spreads and all those types of things. But but I'm ready. I got to catch naps throughout the week before I go up there because
I'm ready to.
I'm losing it, man.
This
is new for you.
This is new for me.
You've done an SEC tailgate?
No. Well,
Lightly.
No. When in a much different phase of my life, when I first got out of college down here and I was needing desperately to make money to be able to make my rent, I would do the PA, press box PA for Vandy games.
Yeah.
So for Vandy home games for a couple of years. Thank God for them because they kept me from poverty outright. But I walked through a Vanderbilt tailgate one time and they were kind of good. They were 3-0 to start one of the seasons, and then Alabama came in here and shut them out. So no, the answer is no. I have not been through an SEC tailgate. Now, IU fans, we tailgate football games. We just don't go to the game. We go home and watch Notre Dame.
Well, see, this one, and my first one was last year.
Okay.
The Ole Miss game.
Oh, as a civilian.
As a civilian.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
That was my first shake, and it was electric. Mm-hmm. It legitimately was. I wore the wrong shoes. Feet didn't matter, though, because it's go time, okay? I wore some Vans. Shouldn't have been wearing some Vans, okay?
I need tailgate shoes. Oh, my God. I didn't think about that.
That ass. You need some tailgate shoes.
Yeah, don't be wearing your Titans game day gear.
Don't look cool.
Don't look cool.
Don't look cool. Get what's comfortable. But, Buck, I was surprised. It was – if what Ole Miss was last year, and I had a bunch of guys, Al Wilson was there, Emo was there, just a bunch of just dudes. I saw Eric Ainge pass with him on the way to the stadium, and I was just like, everybody was saying the same thing. It's like, man, this feels like this is like it was a buzz.
This is real.
Yeah, it was real, and.
They got too real afterwards.
It did. Those are the results. I'm hoping you experienced that the same way that I did, is what I'm saying. With a dub, though.
I think I've never felt better about the Tennessee Volunteers at any point in my time paying attention to them and living down here in the last basically 7 years than I have right now. Now, Thursday Night Football is taking place tonight.
Ooh.
The Browns are favored by 4.5 against your Steelers. The Browns are a loser franchise. Outright. What happened? What happened there?
You broke me right there. Of course they are. Of course.
That was the most genuine tea.
No, it's real.
They let Joe Flacco make them look so inept at the end of that game. And I know coverage busts are things, and Joe Flacco is still a professional athlete who can get hot at any given point, I suppose. But at 37 years old and not being terribly good at football in recent memory, Joe Flacco should not be out there throwing for 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns on their necks. Yeah. The Steelers, though, they look pretty bad.
Yeah, it's iffy, Jack.
So how do you feel about them right now, given what the rest of the AFC looks like, and the Browns, who are still inept but can make it interesting? At least they have made these games interesting despite their losses.
One of the most frustrating franchises is the Browns. All the talent, just a fan base that's friggin' notorious for always being supportive. Great players right now, but then they go sign a guy that's suspended, and now they're behind the 8 ball again. My thing is this: Pittsburgh defense tends to, if they can stop the run game, contain Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think Pittsburgh win. I actually picked Pittsburgh to lose. 21-18 is the score I predicted, for whatever that means. I'm hopeful that they'll win. My thing is this: Cleveland always finds a way to brown themselves. Okay? You know what I mean when I say that, Buck. Like, you've seen it. You've watched them over the years. They always find a way to do something just stupid, dumb, like throwing a bottle at their team owner. Like, it's that. And on the field, there's always blunders. My thing is this: they do have a good team. They have Jacoby Brissett at their quarterback. We got Mitch Trubisky at ours.
Jake Brisket and MVP Mitch.
You feel what I'm saying?
By God.
But this is the thing, too. Pittsburgh has a lot of talent on the outside. They've been talking about how they want to go deep to guys like George Pickens, to Deontay and Chase Claypool. They got a really good tight end. So Cleveland's got their hands full, too. If Mitch Trubisky doesn't Trubisky it and just make plays, this could be an upset type of game. 4 points for the Browns at home.
No.
That's
Unheard of.
I'm telling you, that little elf on the middle of the field might have a teardrop coming out.
What the Jets did to them with the Buddy the Elf. They even painted the little thing from the movie Elf where he's winding up the toys to test them, and the little elf pops out. Except they somehow changed the color of his getup from green to brown to further mock the loser franchise that is the Cleveland Browns. Ramon Foster.
Absolutely.
Ramon and Will, 6 to 10 a.m., 104.5 The Zone. Will I see you on the sideline on Saturday?
I will. You will, but I'm going up. I can't be down there. That old me is done with.
I'm looking forward to being down there, at least for pregame.
Yeah, pregame, yeah.
We'll see where it goes from there. Thanks for the time, buddy.
Absolutely, anytime, man. I'll see you.
No.
Sunglasses on Saturday?
I'll see you. All right, get out of here. It's fitting that Ramon is wearing a Yankees jersey today because, Lucas, I was yelled at in the Titans locker room yesterday for something you neglected to put in your sports update having to do with the New York Yankees and baseball history. So we will address that coming up next. Welcome back. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in today. Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse going to join the show at 11:15. Did you know, for all the bad things that the Titans are doing right now, that he's leading the league in punting average?
He's crushing it.
It seemed literally crushing it.
Yeah.
About the only one, but we'll have time for that later on. I'm looking forward to talking to him because it's got to be a unique experience coming in and replacing somebody like Brett that way. And, he probably is completely unaware of all of that and is just focused on doing his job. I don't want to make the interview about Brett with Ryan, but it is a pretty unique circumstance that the new Titans punter is stepping into. So we'll do that at 11:15. There was something. So I'm in the Titans locker room yesterday to do just, my job, general reporting. We go and do Mike Vrabel's press conference. Ryan Tannehill speaks. And then they open up the locker room, and we're screwing around in there for about 45 minutes. Now, two things. One was Taylor Lewan being in there before flying to Los Angeles last night to get a second evaluation on his knee, walking around with no major limp by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing on his leg at the time. Now, he wasn't doing media, but, as about as positive a look for Taylor after the initial fear of season ending, with that same knee having a recurring injury. But it does not seem at this point. Well, we'll wait for the evaluations before anybody says what it actually is right now. So I'm in the locker room, and Terry McCormick of TitansInsider.com comes up to me. And he was incensed, Lucas. Incensed by the idea that in 3 hours of radio and 2 updates that you do live, including the 2 other updates that you do before each hour of Blaine and Mickey, yes? So 4 total yesterday. That you did not once include Aaron Judge hitting his 60th home run on, what would that have been, Tuesday night. That you did not include that in your update because the significance of this is that he has now tied the record of Babe Ruth, who is, of course, sports legend, not just baseball legend, icon for all times, transcendent, despite looking like, having the physique of a plumber back in whatever era that Babe Ruth played baseball. Incensed that you did not even deign it worthy to mention in your sports update at any point across 4 hours of doing sports updates yesterday.
Well, first of all, it's nice to have you answer for something that I did because it's far too often.
What do you mean? That's a new thing? You say things into the microphone, and because it's my name alone on this show, everything that you say gets held against me.
Name one other thing that I have done that people have come to you to answer for.
I would have to go back through my Twitter mentions.
It doesn't exist.
It exists. It absolutely exists. Even
Twitter doesn't count.
On days that I'm not here, I still get tweets about things that you're saying on the air without me. Okay? Like, it's a thing.
Twitter doesn't count. It's not real life.
So, yes, that's a thing. Proceed.
That's what I got.
Just baseball. That's what you're telling. There's millions of Yankees fans, hundreds of millions of Yankees fans across the world, not just across the country because it's a national brand. It's like Notre Dame and college football and all these other things. Like, there's Yankees fans everywhere, and you're just flatly telling them that not even a mention in an update for the guy who's tied Babe Ruth's home run record. And I saw the highlights. Like, he crushed this thing. He absolutely sent it flying on Tuesday night. And like, I read Jeff Passan's write-up about it, because obviously I didn't see the game, but it starts in the middle of the trot for the most noteworthy and historic home run in more than a decade. One that took Aaron Judge to a level graced by baseball royalty. The Yankees slugger chose not to revel or exult or luxuriate in the moment. The most significant moment in baseball in a decade, and you said,
You know what else I'm not going to do?
What?
When he breaks it?
Talk about it?
I'm not going to say a thing. Nothing.
Nothing?
Nope.
You got nothing for baseball? Just entirely, it's football season, you don't care anymore?
I'd rather tell you about who the Titans put on IR. Can you blame me?
I mean, yes, I'm sure there is a segment of the population that would blame you. Again, this is good. Your words are going to be held against me in some form or fashion by somebody listening to this. Why are people in the Zone TV chat freaking out about Pecorino? Did something happen? I've just seen a ton of Pecorine comments in there today, which is odd for some reason.
Andrew says, I'm more disappointed that there has been no mention of Pekka becoming a coach for the Preds.
What?
Which is news to me. And I opened my Twitter and I see it 37 minutes ago. The Nashville Predators put it out there. Pecorine has rejoined the organization as a special alumni advisor. That I will put in my update.
Yeah, but what does it say that we didn't even see it, much less 25 minutes of show without mentioning it? The greatest player in Nashville Predators history is returning to the franchise. Pecorine will rejoin the team as a special alumni advisor. What is that? Is that like Bruce Arians?
In his role, according to the Preds, Rene will learn from and observe alongside Predators goaltending coach Ben Vanderklok and goaltending development coach Dave Rook in their efforts with the team's goalie prospects in Nashville, Milwaukee, and overseas. He'll also participate in alumni activities throughout Nashville and the Middle Tennessee area, continuing to serve as an ambassador and representative for the Nashville Predators Foundation.
Andrew in the YouTube chat just told me that A to Z is the one that reported it, and I had no idea that was a thing.
That would mean Alex Doherty.
Okay, good job by Alex. There you have it. Pecorine rejoining the Preds.
More significant than Aaron Judge.
Okay, well, we have now addressed the greatest franchise or player in Preds franchise history returning to the team. We must now move on to somebody who is also in a significant an odd advisory role as a former head coach of the team who he is now advising and now is implicated in the middle of this Mike Evans-Marshawn Lattimore fight. We will also talk about the Bobby Hart situation because there was no clarity given, but I still think it's one of the most interesting stories to talk about given that nobody has video of this thing. That's next on 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans have announced a couple of moves this morning, promoting tight end Kevin Rader to the active roster and placing offensive lineman Jamarco Jones on injured reserve. The Titans have also signed outside linebacker Wyatt Ray to the team's practice squad. The Nashville Predators announced today that former goaltender Pekka Rinne has rejoined the organization as a special alumni advisor. He will be a part of the coaching staff with his number 35 hanging in the rafters. Nashville Soccer Club defeated Club America last night in the Leagues Cup Showcase at Geodis Park, a 3-3 thriller that saw Nashville SC win in penalty kicks. The club will now go into the international break and resume the end of MLS regular season play on October 2nd against Houston. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Oh, goodness. How about that to start the second hour? Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. If you're just hanging out throughout the course of today's show, we're happy to have you till 1 o'clock. A couple of Titans roster moves, as you heard from Lucas in his update. I've got tight end Kevin Rader to the active roster. Jamarco Jones, who has been net zero for this team since his acquisition in free agency, has gone on injured reserve with a biceps issue. And they signed Wyatt Ray, old Wyatt Ray, back to the practice squad. That's kind of terrifying, honestly, that's the state of the pass rush. Because you saw that Tack McKinley got signed away from them on the practice squad yesterday.
I did.
Who has significantly more, a former first-round pick, so the pedigree is obviously better than Wyatt Ray. But, that's not good. That's not good at all. Also worth noting, something that we did not talk about yesterday. I think we were off the air by then. Christian DeLauro, the offensive tackle who was with them through training camp, was signed to the practice squad. So they are desperately hoping for good news on Taylor Lewan after the second medical evaluation today.
Isn't it insane how the injuries have stacked up this early?
It really,
I mean, just snap your finger.
Snap your finger and somebody's finger breaks, you know?
Maybe a bad, yeah, maybe not the way to put that.
You got to snap your finger and then it just falls off.
It's such a relatively smooth preseason and training camp, and then Landry tears his ACL, and it just it was the first domino. I guess Racey McMath going on IR was the first thing, but
yeah, it is. Because I had a lot of questions yesterday after the not even this round, because this is still significant, that Dylan Radins is going to play one way or the other, it seems like, at some point this year, and they have actively tried to keep him off the field as much as humanly possible. Whew. I guess the only thing that you could look at this and say is at least it's happening in week 2 as opposed to, but they may be non-competitive by the time we get, the bye week is in week 6. So if ever there was a time to have a good opportunity for the early bye, I guess this is it.
But that roster rule on IR of only being able to bring 8 guys back after being on IR is huge.
Huge this year.
Because that would have, last year, if that's in place, I don't think they can accomplish what they accomplished.
The thing that kept them as competitive as they were, even as people looked at them and said they're dead in the water 6 different times, is that they had an unlimited amount of opportunities to bring players back from injured reserve. Now the NFL has said, okay, we can't have that. Really, it's too much at this point. There has to be some kind of competitive balance that we cap this thing. So 8 players are only allowed to return from IR. Harold is out, right? I don't know what the status of Racey McMath is. There's been nothing yet. Keep in mind that Monty Rice has still not been activated from the, reserve PUP that he's technically on? Because Monty's not on IR, is he currently? I need to look.
Sorry, who?
Monty Rice is not. Is he currently on
IR?
IR?
He is not that I had seen.
Okay, I need to check.
Well, being on that PUP list automatically put him out for the first 4 games. So that essentially is a way to avoid placing him on IR.
Correct.
On reserve PUP.
because I just saw a tweet that said from Kaharski, sign Wyatt Ray to their practice squad. It's not the 53, but still, there isn't a guy with more upside on 31 practice squads than a guy you waived, released 3 times already. Yeah, they had Tack McKinley, and he got signed away. I mean, that just happened. Like, here's the problem with all the problems that they have. There's not better options out there. I am critical of the fixes that they have tried to make that have not worked in their favor. Obviously, the offensive line is still as big a problem as we thought it to be last year. And the lack of team speed generally that you'll hear Greg Cosell break down is significantly problematic. There's so many different ways to look at this. Now, Elijah Molden can potentially return at this point. We'll see what the situation with Racing McMath is. Maybe they have some wave of reinforcements that ends up getting it done. But I think that all of these different things, they better hope to hell that the initial evaluation of Lawan might be done for the season is not the case, because they have so little left to give. Jamarco Jones was the backup for both Aaron Brewer and Nate Davis. They have Jordan Ruse, who's still on the practice squad, who did play a lot during the preseason and filled in when Nate was unavailable during training camp. But holy hell, I need to see how many players they already have on IR next to the rest of the league. Because there was Mike Herndon tweeted out something from the 33rd team yesterday about like percentage of cap space allocated towards injured players. So like being $46 million in the hole of players who can't play for you right now, and what the rest of the roster value is. It was a pretty interesting analysis. I hadn't seen it done that way before. But like, I mean, the Derek Robersons of the world, the Wyatt Rays, Tuzar Skipper, like these dudes who were a part of the worst pass rush that we have seen for the Titans in God knows how long in 2020, that's what you got left. Because when Clowney and Beasley went down, it's what they had remaining. Washed Brooks Reed being held down in the snow with one hand by David Bakhtiari as the Packers rolled over the Titans 40 to 14 in Green Bay, that Christmas game. Whew.
Yep.
Okay. There's also some SEC news. Lucas just told me in my ear. Significant or not?
Not terribly significant, but there's been this investigation on LSU for recruiting violations under Ed Orgeron, and the NCAA puts out that they did commit recruiting violations during the COVID year, and that former LSU O-line coach James Craig gets a 3-year show cause, and the program is on 1-year probation.
That's pretty interesting. That also, you had said it in my ear about Cedric Tillman for the Florida game. We did not get to it with Ramon. It sounds like he is very, very. It seems unlikely that he's going to play against Florida.
Yeah, WBIR, Channel 10 in Knoxville reported yesterday he is highly questionable, and that people inside the program are saying that they will be surprised if he plays, and if he does play, will not be 100% with an ankle injury.
Okay, well. We'll continue to monitor the situation. The Titans are going to be on the practice field in about an hour from now. We're expected to have Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse, so we will talk to him about what his experience has been like through these first 3 games, and what it has been like to kind of step into a role that a lot of people looked at him sideways for, and he now leads the NFL in punting thus far. We'll get to that coming up next. If we have time, we will also play a part of Todd Downing's press conference, because the coordinators, as opposed to Mike Vrabel, are going to speak today. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. Titans getting ready to hit the practice field momentarily. Day 2 of on-field work before they take on the Raiders at Nissan Stadium. Here, kickoff right here on your flagship home for Titans Radio, 104.5 The Zone. Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse joins us now on the show. Happy to have you here, Ryan. What's happening, stud?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Sure. So, obviously the results in the first couple of weeks, not what you guys are looking for collectively, and there will obviously be time after the season for things like self-reflection, but are you comfortable out there? You've done it all through training camp and the preseason. You're leading the league in net yards right now and have been, it looks successful from an untrained eye out there. How has everything felt?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting back into, season mode. This offseason's been a long offseason, how going through the draft and everything like that. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting back into season and I feel good.
So I know your coach, Craig Aukerman, special teams coordinator, is talking right now to the rest of us vultures at the podium. But with all the different things that you guys are looking for, what does the self-evaluation for the special teams unit look like after these first couple of weeks? What are the adjustments? Because I feel like that's a part of the game that a lot of casual football fans aren't necessarily tracking as to its impact outside of the obvious field position in real time. What are kind of the things that you guys go about doing?
Yeah, so obviously, the whole thing is doing it together. We want to be as clean as possible for Randy. I want to be as clean as possible on holds. I know Morgan wants to be as clean as possible on snaps. So I think for that whole operation, for the field goal operation, I feel like that's our main goal. From a punt standpoint, I think that there's a lot of things that I can do to help our net go up even more. I think just, there's some tweaks there that more direction, a little bit more hang time on some of the punts, just those things, that we can tweak and just increase it even more.
Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse is our guest here on 104.5 The Zone, about to head out on the practice field for another day of work. We talked to you when you made the active roster, Ryan, about the significance of the guy that you were replacing, and it can be tiresome, I'm sure, to talk about other people in those kind of circumstances. But the way that the city and the franchise have embraced you, it seems like that hasn't missed a beat, despite kind of the larger shoes of the previously longest tenured Titan that you have now filled.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, coming in here and just being able to get an opportunity to show that I'm capable of doing the job. And I think that's just, obviously our main goal as a team is to win, and I want to do as much as possible to help the team win. And that's going to always be the first goal.
So with a situation, you've been hitting balls to Kyle Phillips and the other returners all training camp, all offseason, and then into the preseason as things got underway, had plenty of work doing that. But for Kyle, when he's struggled in a couple of these return circumstances, is there any kind of corrections that you give him as somebody who is obviously very familiar with what he brings to the table?
No, I'm not a punt returner coach, and I don't try to be, but I'll always give him work whenever he needs it. And Kyle's a great dude. He's a stud, and I have complete faith in him.
Certainly, that is going to be the case moving forward for the Titans. Week 3 coming up against the Raiders. Your background, I always find it interesting to kind of go through the media guides and things like that before we have you guys on. And the powerhouse that is modern day high school football in California, obviously of which you're alumni, so many NFL players it seems are, as well as including some of the best college football players right now. That's not something, obviously people in the Southeast pay attention to recruiting and things of that nature, but can you kind of describe for the audience that may not necessarily be familiar what kind of atmosphere that creates at a pretty young age?
Yeah, modern day is a complete powerhouse in my opinion. It just breeds winning there. It doesn't matter, what your skill level is. A lot of guys go into that program maybe not as refined, and you come out, of there being a really good athlete just because of the atmosphere and the culture that Monterey has. I got to play with guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, JT Daniels, and even Chase McGrath, one of my best friends
right.
here, kicks for Tennessee. Just guys like that, it really does breed success. And what Coach Rawlinson has done there year in and year out with new guys, the turnover that they have there, it's just a testament to what he is as a coach.
McGrath has had a great season so far for them. I know it's pretty early on in the college football season, but so you've been keeping tabs on the Vols since he transferred?
Oh, absolutely. We talk almost every day, and yeah, absolutely. I follow him all the time, and yeah, he's a stud, and I'm happy to see him succeed.
With, have you guys talked about Florida Week? This is my executive producer is a Tennessee alumni. Everybody I work with are basically Vols at this point. It's completely infected everything that I've tried to do over the course of the last week. Have you talked to him about the Gators and the upcoming game?
Oh, yeah. He's excited. I think as a team, they're excited to step up and to the challenge and continue the season they're having. But I think that there's an excitement around that program.
I don't know if you've heard the audio, Ryan, of your teammate, as you mentioned, Amon-Ra St. Brown, talking about players that were drafted ahead of him, particularly one across the sidelines from him this week as the Lions got their first win of the season. Yeah. His people have gotten to know him, I think, a lot more by nature of Hard Knocks and things like that. But that mindset, it's not unique, but it is kind of jarring when you have somebody like that who's clearly succeeding at a high level, but still is taking every slight, perceived, real or perceived, that seriously, where he's staring down guys across the sideline that got drafted ahead of him.
He's been like that forever, ever since I met him in high school. He's been the same guy. He had that chip on it when he went to SC. Coming out of the draft, he had that same chip. And he's just out to show people that, his size is not a reflection of his ability. And I think that, he's going to continue to do that, but it's crazy because he's still the same guy that he was. And I'm happy to see him, succeed, but he's always going to keep receipts and tabs on that kind of stuff. That just drives him, it gives him an extra edge. And I think a lot of people are like that. Maybe not as outspoken, but there's a lot more people like that than probably meet the eye.
Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Hunter Renfrow is currently questionable. Obviously, he's had great success both as a receiver and a returner in the league, so we'll see what his status is. But what's kind of the scouting report on their special teams group as you head into Sunday's game?
Yeah, AJ's a great punter. Daniel's a great kicker. Trent Sieg and I actually played together at Colorado State for a year. They're a long snapper. But yeah, the returners are great. I always have respect for returners. They're great athletes. They make plays, and as a punter, you're trying to eliminate as many, X plays as you can from a returner. So yeah, if it's Hunter back there, that's great. I'm always looking for a challenge. And, I think our punt team is rolling right now. And I think that, like I said, whatever I can do this week to help us win is what we're going to try to do.
These returners, all football players, no matter what position, are insane people as far as the rest of the civilians are concerned, just by nature of what you guys do for a living. But, returners seem to be a particularly kind of crazy, like kamikaze pilots kind of running into the face of people screaming down to knock the hell out of them and try and get the ball out of their hands. Have you ever hit a punt and thought to yourself as it was being returned, I am shocked that this dude is taking it out right now. He has no shot.
Oh yeah, they have a lot of confidence in their returns, and rightfully so. The exhilaration of a punt return touchdown is crazy. It's a crazy play. It can shift a game. So it doesn't shock me sometimes when some of these guys do take it out, or on the back pedal and take it. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for returners. They're studs. Almost every single one of them that I've met, has some edge to him. Something to prove.
Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse has been kind enough to be our guest before he heads out on the practice field for another day of work. Ryan, continued health and success, and we appreciate you stopping by, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Ryan Stonehouse, Titans punter, with us on 104.5 The Zone. From the Titans punter to the Titans offensive coordinator, Todd Downing is currently at the podium. We go now live to St. Thomas Sports Park.
Our second, third drives, or into the second half of the Giants game. We just need to be more consistent in executing our bread and butter schemes.
The toss sweep that you guys ran several times to the left, it got stopped for lost yardage multiple times without Taylor on the field. Why keep going to that when they were sniffing it out?
Yeah, the ball exchange was the same in that it was a toss, but there were two different schemes, one of them being in sub and then the other one being in a big personnel grouping. Thought we could get the front set in a way that we could gain leverage on those blocks. Obviously, it didn't work out, and we didn't execute well enough. But after the second one, stayed away from that a little bit. So,
what's the primary thing you need to be doing offensive line-wise right now to kind of reset to the identity that you need to have to be the team that you've been?
Yeah, I think the communication, number one, across the board, just making sure everybody's working to the right guys and understanding what we're trying to accomplish. And then number two, we got to win the line of scrimmage. We have to fire off the ball and we got to win that line of scrimmage, get into these combinations, and let Derek get into his fourth or fifth step and see where we go from there.
What stands out most from working with Derek Carr, and have you kept up with him over the years?
Yeah, Derek and I have a great relationship. He's a wonderful human being, as I know you guys have seen, throughout the years. And Derek is one of those guys that is a perfectionist, a pleaser. He wants to try to improve, at every turn. And so it was really fun coaching him, in a manner of which he always wanted more. He always wanted the next thing. He always wanted the next drill. He always wanted the next cut up and all those things. So as a player, a very dedicated player. As a man, an even more impressive human being and, somebody that I consider a close friend.
What areas do you feel you've grown since your last opportunity in Oakland as an OC?
Yeah, couple things. One, I hope I'm more collaborative. I know that my first time in Oakland, there were times I kind of just shut the door and put my head down and tried to figure it all out. And so I hope I'm a little bit more collaborative that way. Secondly, I think I try to anticipate some problems a little bit better. Maybe instead of just banking on, what we do, win in every situation, trying to anticipate some things. And then I think any time you're doing something for the second time, the second go around, you gain experience, right? You're able to maybe anticipate some in-game things, deal with some relationships maybe different than you did the first time around. And so, hopefully I'm better.
The problems that the offensive line has had, and now injuries come into that group as well. Do you have to kind of adjust what you do, maybe keep more backs in the block, more tight ends in the block, just to try and help everybody out?
Yeah, I think that's a constant evaluation. Some of the most highly played and highly skilled players on defense are those edge rushers. And, whether you got a full complement of guys or whoever you got out there on the offensive line, those are some tough matchups sometimes. And so we're always looking for ways to make sure that we're doing what's best in protection, trying to give Ryan a chance to get through progressions and find that balance between, always having a bunch of people in blocking and only 3 out on the route. And then, times where we got to be able to get 4, maybe even 5 out into the route to take advantage of spacing or matchups. So that's a constant evaluation for sure.
How did David do after stepping in for Taylor?
On a kind of short preparation, I thought he did a great job. I'm really excited to see what he does with a full week of preparation. But he played hard. Obviously, like any of us, obviously myself included, there are things you wish you could have done different in the game or handled different. But I think he'll learn from those things. And with a week of prep, I'm excited to see how he plays.
Before games, we always see you kind of walking the lining of the field
Yep.
and headphones on usually. Have you always done that, and what's that about in terms of your own preparation?
Yeah, everybody's got their own way of getting ready for games. Some guys go out there and work out and all that. I take prayer walks. You probably see me do it around the practice field here. Obviously my faith is something that's important to me, and so I spend some time just in reflection, listen to some worship music, say a little prayer, protection over the players and my staff and the guys I'm working with and all that. So.
How far back does that go for you?
I mean, way before here or being a coordinator, that was something I started when I first got into the league and started kind of maturing in my faith. It's something that kind of helped me get focused and centered for game day.
You feel confidence is an issue for some guys on the offense right now based on production that you haven't had and the results?
I don't know that I'd say confidence. I think there's a level of frustration. I think anytime that you're working as hard as we're working and not seeing the results come to fruition, there's a little bit of frustration, maybe impatience. But we're working hard together to band together to make sure that, we're focused on helping each other out and find a way to break through. And I believe that the process will work and that we will, start to see some of the rewards to our hard work.
Coming off of you have to fight your own impatience a little bit too when it comes to that.
I don't know that I get impatient. Obviously, I want what's best for our players, and I work tirelessly to try to put them in the best positions we can, and so I have an urgency to try to get our players going a little bit because I think they deserve that. I see how hard they work, but I wouldn't consider myself impatient, more just urgent.
Coming off a game where you only scored 7 points, like how do you approach this next game? I'm sure you want to come out and get points early and sustain that, but what's the approach for you as a play caller?
Yeah, I can't chase big plays and try to manufacture some 40-point play out there. They don't exist, right? So we have to stay true to the process, but we have to put an emphasis on scoring points. And it's hard in this league to sustain long drives without producing some big plays within those drives, and certainly without conversions on third down. So we're going to have to find a way, to put some chunks together and to convert some third downs. And our mantra's got to be, hey, we got to go score some points.
Josh Gordon's settled in a little bit more on the practice field. I know he played 18 snaps Monday, but you'll see him building up for potentially more?
I think so, and understanding maybe different positions so we don't have to just tag him at one spot and limit his route tree a little bit. I think he's getting some more exposure, and getting in better shape and all those things. So excited to have Josh and, like what he's been showing us.
We see like different personnel packages where it's like you'll go like big and pass out of that package and opposite. Does it get to a point where you're just like, you know what, let's just strip it down a little bit, stick with the basics, and try to figure out what it is that we do really well?
Yeah, I think that we've executed some bread and butter schemes out of different personnel groupings. That's something that we said all the way back in camp, right, is we got to be able to run the same plays out of different groupings. There was an empty play in the game. We just missed trailing on a shallow cross. That was out of a big grouping. Again, back to some of our conversations at this podium from last week, you build certain tendencies in that personnel grouping. We had a very heavy run tendency, so wanted to open them up and get a shallow cross. We just didn't execute, but you're always going to try to find wrinkles like that, and tendencies like that to try to take advantage of, and hopefully we can go execute and produce.
Given his ability to make plays after the catch and run with the ball in his hands, do you need to make Traylon more a focal part of the offense in terms of what he can do?
I think he's been growing each and every week, and I think he's been generating confidence in a lot of people around here each and every week. And so as that happens just naturally, I think the ball tends to find him a little bit more. Again, I don't think you can force anything, but you certainly want to give a guy that has done well with his opportunities some more opportunities. Thanks.
That's Titans OC Todd Downing meeting with the media on this Thursday. 615-737-1045 if you want to react to anything that you heard him say. A couple of things for me. The toss plays that were largely ineffective throughout the course of the game, it to me is an indictment as much of, so Derek doesn't look super explosive, right? Is that a fair assessment of Derrick Henry right now?
Yeah, I mean, you look at his numbers.
Well, I was fine with New York. I've seen the New York game before. It's not, it's not earth-shattering. It's not Hall of Fame Derrick Henry 2,000-yard rusher, but it's not, what did he have, 25 yards rushing against the Bills? So I was not necessarily bent out of shape about New York, and I can't say that I'm bent out of shape about Buffalo from a Derrick standpoint. I don't think that you can play the way that they want to play with a 275-pound guard. I watched back that game last night, the television copy, and Greg Rousseau just picks him up and throws him into Ryan Tannehill for a sack. I saw somebody make this analogy on Twitter, and I wish that I could give proper credit. I don't remember who said it, but the thing about $2 steaks is that they're not very good. Remember the whole line about tougher than a $2 steak?
Yeah.
And I don't want to dismiss Aaron Brewer that way because he's clearly got something more than Dylan Radins was, who has the better pedigree, all these different things. But the sweep plays that Derek used to break for 60 and 70-yard touchdown runs or even just giant gains, they don't have that, and I don't think that it's all Derek. I don't think that Derek is faultless in this, and fault is not the right word because it's not like he's doing anything overtly wrong, but whatever's going on with Derek, that we'll see how it works out over the course of a season. He's not quite there right now. We'll see if he gets there at some point in the season. But the offensive line in front of me, it's just in front of him, it's just insufficient. It's just simply insufficient to me. No matter what kind of run scheme or pass plays they want to run. If you drop Ryan Tannehill back 40 times a game and you try to win with your pass game, if plan A as Derek doesn't go well, can their passing game work without him? It hasn't in certain circumstances. It hasn't so far early in the season. I thought Ryan Tannehill was fine against the Giants. I thought he would, well, let me take that back. I thought he was good against the Giants. I thought Tannehill played well, despite all the different things that went wrong for them in that game. But overwhelmingly, I just think their offensive line is such a multi-layered problem for everything that they want to do when this team is exclusively built to run the damn ball, right? And they don't have the personnel up front to do it. 615-737-1045. Corey is in White House up next.
Hey, Buck. Love the show. First time calling in.
Love that.
Just wanted to kind of reiterate or go back over what you were saying when it comes about Derek's explosiveness. I don't think we've had a chance to actually see that yet, considering our O-line issues, especially now with Lawan going out. Todd Downing was talking about how that tall sweep and run on the outside wasn't working. I know they ran that play at least 10 times. He only said a few times, but it was a lot more than that. But
I don't have it charted. I don't know what the exact number is, Corey. So that's
not the issue. But the issue is he has not been able to have a chance to square his shoulders and run downhill. If you watch him run between the tackles, he is running downhill, except for a few of the plays where the line is absolutely getting blown up, where the box is stacked because our O-line is so weak. That's my issue. I can't sit here and say that Derrick Henry is not who he was before he got hurt last year. He still has it. I'm not giving up on the dude. I don't know. I'm so torn between, is this really an OC issue or is this mainly a talent issue on our O-line, especially with Lawan being hurt? So I'll kind of let that go. I'm rambling a little bit, so I'll hang up listening.
Thanks for the call. Luckily, we have a safety net when the rambling starts. That's the music. 60 seconds on the clock. I'm going to give you some numbers on Derrick Henry and about the efficiency, how many times he's getting hit at the line of scrimmage, how many attempts he has next to other running backs in the league. We'll also take more of your phone calls on what Todd Downing had to say coming up next on 104.5 The Zone. All right, so some calls about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry actually just spoke to the media. Anything of terrible interest there, Lucas?
Not that I heard.
Okay. Well, that's they have it live streamed and on their YouTube channel. So if you want to hear what Derrick Henry had to say heading into Raiders Week, we invite you to do so. But first, we got to talk about some general concerns with, is it Derrick? Is it play calling? Is it personnel around him? Like, what is truly the issue? And the answer is just generally yes. Like, they're not overwhelmingly great at anything currently, on top of the penalty issues that they continue to have. So I looked up some of Derrick's numbers in the Sports Info Solutions leaderboards, for lack of a better term. So they have the general counting stats, games, attempts, yards after contacts, touchdowns, blah, blah, blah. But they also have things like how often is a player hit at the line, how often are they stuffed behind the line of scrimmage, how often are they rushing for first downs, all these different kind of things. So attempts-wise, where would you say Derrick Henry ranks right now?
In the entire league?
In the entire league through 2 games.
Top 3?
No. Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, Jonathan Taylor, 46, 45, and 40 carries respectively. Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley tied for 39 attempts.
And Henry's had what, 30, 31?
Derrick has said 34. So he and James Robinson have the same number of carries right now. James Robinson has 23 more yards than Derrick Henry does on 34 attempts. So 130 yards to Derrick's 107. Yards after contact, 91. So he's not breaking things after he gets hit right now. He's getting stopped more often at the point of contact than he has been in recent memory. Now, he's still he's still able to break tackles. Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, A.J. Dillon, and Christian McCaffrey all have the same amount of broken tackles so far this season, 4 so far in the year. And he has rushed for, oh, God, you got to scroll. See, this is it. This is where it gets interesting. You have to scroll down. I have to Command F search this to find Derrick Henry and the number of rushing attempts that he's had for first downs. If I told you that Jonathan Taylor has had 12 rushes that have gone for first downs this season, how many would you say that Derrick has?
2 or 3.
He has 2.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan Taylor was fantastic in week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, he essentially led the Colts back into that game. Remember, they trailed by 17 in that game to Houston. And he was essentially non-existent when they were shut out by the Jags, but obviously they were down by so much in the second half of that game, they had to kind of get away from that. But he had a great week 1, Jonathan Taylor. 160 yards on the day, I think.
Derrick Henry has been stopped at the line, 5th most of any running back in the NFL, 17. Leonard Fournette is currently the league leader, 22 times hit at the line, or stopped at the line. Derrick Henry has been stuffed behind the line of scrimmage 8 times, tied with Saquon Barkley, and behind Joe Mixon, James Robinson, Leonard Fournette, and Jonathan Taylor. So he's still up there in the places that you expect him to be up there, including the things like stuff behind the line of scrimmage because their offensive line's not very good. But as we kind of evaluate these things, it's all something to keep in mind. It's not just one issue. It's not just that you don't like Todd Downing and his play calling because that's the easiest thing to pinpoint. In fact, Greg Cosell is going to give you some really, really sound analysis in the noon hour. Also, we have Titans tickets to give away. Not yet. Don't do it yet. Not yet. Back away from the dial pad. Is that what that's called? Dial pad?
I don't know.
Like the keypad? Whatever it is. Don't dial the number yet. Wait till noon. Or wait till the noon hour. I'll tell you how you can win Titans tickets in just a little bit. But all these things working in conjunction together are the problem. It's that they're not working well. Let's go to Jake in Boston up next. Hello, Jake.
Buck, what's going on? So I listened to Cosell last night. Thanks as always for doing that. It's a very informational resource.
Don't thank me. Thank Greg.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean, though. You got it together. And the team speed thing, while I agree with versus like what's been on the field for 2 weeks, don't you think just putting Traylon, Kyle, even Chig on the field a bit more is like a way to solve that? Like, what's the threshold for team speed, you know?
It's a good question because, like, A.J. Brown, like, you didn't look at them as having overwhelming team speed when A.J. was their top receiver, right? Like, A.J.'s not a burner down the field. It's just that he's physically bigger than a lot of these dudes, and he can carry himself further and break tackles that way.
Yeah,
so,
but how often do we see A.J. Brown pulling away from a secondary?
Not often. No. Team speed has been a consistent problem that they've tried several different ways to address, and the solution cannot be Khalif Raymond. Or Taywan Taylor, right? Because even Taywan was not that like straight line fast. And
you don't think we could pull up a highlight tape of A.J. Brown pulling away from defensive backs down the sideline on one of those 60-plus yard touchdown runs? Like, it's like the Derrick Henry thing, right? Like, it doesn't look like he's moving fast, but you see him moving, and he's eating up yards faster than the guys chasing him are.
All right, let's clarify, because what Jake in Boston is asking is, what is the threshold for team speed, right? Is team speed... You know, you don't get jammed off the line of scrimmage like Jake Kumaro, and all of a sudden Jake Kumaro is running free in your secondary. You know what I'm saying? Like what happened to Caleb Farley. Traylon Burks and A.J. Brown are explosive players off the line of scrimmage, but they're not truly just relying on their speed. Now, Mike Vrabel classifies it as play strength and play speed, so how fast you are moving within the scope of a play. That is something that A.J. does possess in spades, and something that Derek has had, certainly. Across several different years of us watching him. But it is a good threshold. A good question. What is the threshold for team speed? Because at some point you have to think that they have the personnel to kind of do similar things everywhere but the offensive line. Everywhere but that spot. Because that's really not a good situation that they have in front of them right now. Bam in Nashville is next.
Morning, Buck. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
All right, man. So I'm kind of torn in between the line and Downing. Reason being, you almost can't really tell who to necessarily put the blame on. Everybody's responsible. Let's start there. But I heard Todd Downing say something about, him praying. I'm like, maybe you need to go to a tent revival down in the woods and start praying down there. Maybe those prayers will work a little bit faster.
Hey, Bam, listen, I'm going to betray a confidence, as we so often do. Lucas made a similar joke in my ear during the Todd Downing press conference. I dared him to make that joke. Dared him.
Well, I'm the one to do it, buddy, because, you need to go to a tent revival, buddy. But more importantly, with Derek, man, it's like, I think, not necessarily him coming off this injury. I don't think he's regressed. I think he understands what's going on, what the protection that he doesn't have. I don't want to blame Derek, but it's almost kind of like he got to find – maybe he need to go talk to Eddie George again and get another pep talk for him to come out and just be who he's supposed to be, man, because I don't know, man. It's like everybody's depending on somebody else to do something. It ain't nobody doing nothing. So, that's my take on it. But hopefully we pull it together before Sunday. Y'all be easy, man.
Thanks for the call, Bam. Why don't we have Greg Cosell's analysis of exactly that thing coming up next?
It is 12:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans have promoted tight end Kevin Rader to the active roster and placed offensive lineman Jamarco Jones on injured reserve. The team also signed outside linebacker Wyatt Ray to the team's practice squad. Ray spent time with the Titans in the 2020 season. The Nashville Predators announced today that legendary goaltender Pekka Rinne has rejoined the organization as a special alumni advisor. He'll be a part of the coaching staff and a developmental piece of the team's young goaltenders. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Call it third down on a Thursday, third hour for us at least. On 104.5 The Zone, we're with you until 1 o'clock, that being Lucas Panzica and myself. 615-737-1045 if you would like to join our conversation at any point throughout the course of today. Oh, wow. I just saw a significant news update before we get into the Titan stuff. This Ime Udoka thing that's going on right now with the Celtics coach. Jael is writing in the YouTube chat that it's being reported he's been suspended for a year. Have you seen this?
No.
Can you look up the veracity of that for me? I can put these people on hold if you actually I can do it here in just a second. But I'll give you the details on that, and then we'll get back into Greg Cosell, what he had to say about the Titans. But if he is suspended for a year, that would be massive news. For an alleged improper relationship with another Celtics team employee, facing a season-long suspension for relationship with a member of the franchise's staff. So I haven't seen that he's gone for the year, but I will. We will keep you updated with that because that would be significant. And you know, I'm biased, I think, in this situation, but I think Ime Udoka is being covered way more than something like Brett Favre is, and the reasons for that are I'm not sure what is happening there and why that's not being covered at greater length. We haven't really talked about the Brett Favre story either, but what Brett Favre has done in the state of Mississippi is egregious, and the fact that now we're just going to have an affair to throw in people's faces like fireworks to distract them from what's actually going on with a much more serious situation than somebody having an affair. I don't like that. Anyway, we'll keep you updated as things come about. But we have just heard from Todd Downing, the Titans offensive coordinator, and there are a couple of different things that people wanted to address. Derrick Henry and the toss plays are something that have consistently come up throughout the course of these first 2 weeks. The results have been less than ideal. And for the Titans, it's about, okay, if Derrick can't give them what they need, are they capable of operating independently of him? It's an interesting question. Because when we broke this down yesterday, the newest episode of The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films, we do the episodes every Wednesday. You can check the newest out in your favorite podcast app. We talked a lot about the Titans and the Bills, obviously, but we also did go through what the Jags did to the Colts, Tua and the Dolphins and the way they came back on the Ravens, and a lot of different results around the league that Greg found interesting. The analysis is always great. But when Greg posed this question to me, it struck me because it's the same one that Lucas put in the grid for our Tuesday show to react to the Monday Night Football loss. That situation was, what's plan B? And when Greg said it, independent of our conversation that we had on the radio show on Tuesday, it hit me a little different. Here's the analysis.
I'm sure many fans, when they didn't run Derrick Henry enough over the last, or in their mind enough over the last couple of years, said, why aren't they giving the ball to Derrick Henry, right? You've heard that, I'm sure.
1,000,001 times.
Correct. So when they give the ball to Derrick Henry and they're not successful running the ball behind, by the way, a not very good offensive line right now, then what's next? What is plan B? You know, Ryan Tannehill has had success in this league, but I would bet, and I believe this myself, I would bet that most coaches that you would speak to around the league, I'm not talking about Titans coaches, would say that Tannehill is more of a complimentary quarterback than a guy in the Josh Allen mold. I'm not comparing talent. I'm just saying the kind of guy that you can just put the offense on his back and he just, rides you off into the sunset.
Yeah,
so,
and that's been the bulk of our discussion is what is plan B? Because plan B, after Derek was ineffective in that game, was certainly not any more effective for the Titans trying to get something going. And obviously Buffalo did well to stop them at every turn.
The question is, and it goes back to what you and I have discussed over since we started doing the podcast, and I've discussed as well on 3HL, is to be a really good offense, your run game and your pass game have to be able to work independently of one another because you never know what any given game will bring.
So that's Greg Cosell's analysis. So I ask you the question, you as the audience, 615-737-1045. Do you want to do this to the best? Do you want to do this for the best call?
Let's do it.
Okay.
What's plan B? Is that the question?
Yeah. I'm trying to. I need as many answers as anybody else.
Like Greg's asking it too.
I know we are the experts. You, Greg, me, everybody who has microphones in front of their faces and is tasked with talking about these things.
Yes, this qualifies me as an expert.
Well, I didn't want to exclude you, buddy. You're clamoring for credit at every other turn, so when I give it to you, you can't dismiss it.
Well, that's what happens when the mic gets put in front of your face. It just happens. It's just there. It just happens. You're an expert. It's really amazing.
But I've been getting away with it for years. So we'll give the best plan B option to, or we'll give the Titans tickets to Sunday's game against the Raiders at Nissan Stadium, plus 2 tickets to the Titans VIP tailgate at the Bridge Building, thanks to Bullseye Event Group, to the caller with the best plan B for the Titans. Because you just heard Greg's analysis. He's asking, hey, I don't know what they do, but they need a plan B. Because if this thing does not go, if this thing is so dependent on Derrick Henry's ability to be that much better than everybody else, can you find ways to still win football games? The question posed, can the Titans' passing game, as presently constructed, operate independently of their rushing game? What is the thing that made the Tampa Bay Buccaneers so successful when Tom Brady joined them, outside of having the best quarterback in the history of the world? That matters. It's not insignificant. But the way that they constructed that roster around Tom allowed them to play in a way where they could come in one week and drop back 50 times if they needed to, because Tom Brady can play that way, and their offensive line was built to play that way. If they need to run the ball with heavy personnel, with Gronk and O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate in 3 tight end sets and Leonard Fournette, heavy personnel, run the ball, and just road grade people. They could do that. That's, I think, what made the Patriots so unique for a long time. Again, Brady gives them a lot more flexibility, but you don't have Tom Brady. You don't have Josh Allen. You don't have Patrick Mahomes. You have somebody who is fine, who's good enough in certain circumstances. But is he good enough with a bad situation around him to operate independently of the rushing game? The answer is difficult to find. So we'll get into these. Let's start the bidding with Andrew in Portland up first on 104.5 The Zone. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Buck. I actually was not calling to be in the running, so remove me from the running. I just wanted to see if there was an explanation that you could give on a quote that Todd Downing dropped in the press conference, which says, and I quote from Jim Wyatt, "Dennis Daly did a good job stepping in for Taylor Lewan at left tackle versus the Bills." I'm curious, was there 2 games on Monday night? Because the game I was watching, nobody on that offensive line was worth a damn.
Well, there were 2 games.
Anything else that I missed?
Yeah, I mean, not Lucas, just quickly to the microphone. There were 2 games,
Sorry,
Andrew.
Andrew.
Joke's on you.
Gotcha.
You're a jerk. Yes, the Eagles and the Vikings also did play on Monday Night Football. But his point is correct. Todd Downing was asked about Dennis Daly filling in for Taylor Lewan. And again, for those of you who missed the start of the show, Taylor Lewan is being TMZ'd at the Nashville International Airport last night as he walks through the terminal on his way to Los Angeles to get a second evaluation of his knee from an external expert as they try to figure out what the hell they have at left tackle on Sunday. Dennis Daly was not good. Now, Todd Downing, Andrew left out the part of the quote where he said on a short week they thought Dennis Daly did well. He gave up 6 pressures unto himself. The quarterback was hurried 5 times with Dennis Daly blocking for him on the left side. He was hit once with Dennis Daly blocking for him on the left side. Taylor Lewan in week 1, for what it's worth, against a lesser pass rush, it is important to note. But I thought I saw a stat from Mike Herndon about like how many pressures Dennis Daly gave up in that single game next to like the last couple seasons of Taylor Lewan when he's out there to be able to play. Okay, I've got it right here. Dennis Daly, this is at Mike Miracles on Twitter. Dennis Daly allowed more pressures against the Bills than Taylor Lewan has allowed in his last 9 starts combined. So if you're one of those who's poo-pooing, and this is his tweet, if you're one of those who's poo-pooing Lewan's loss as if it's not a big deal, well, buckle up. So, again, I think it's positive development that Lewan is requiring a second evaluation after the initial fear of season ender. I think that there is, I think that to say that Dennis Daly did a good job, short week or not, that would be a stretch by any evaluation. All right, more of your phone calls on what the Titans' plan B could possibly be for the opportunity to win a pair of Titans tickets to the Titans hosting the Raiders this Sunday at Nissan Stadium, plus 2 tickets to the Titans VIP tailgate at the Bridge Building, thanks to Bullseye Event Group. 615-737-1045. More Greg Cosell analysis as well coming up next. Did you know that the cost to rebuild a home has increased by almost 50% since 2019? If something happened to your home, it's important to make sure that you can rebuild. Most home insurance does not account for inflation, which is critical. But with Country Financial, it can. With their additional replacement cost coverage, you can be sure your home's full value is protected. If you can relate to filing an insurance claim, if you've had a serious claim once before, trust me, I have done it myself after the tornadoes. If it happens to you, you want somebody to have your back, like Country Financial will. They provide insurance and financial services to help you prepare for the most important moments in life, even the ones you hope never happen. Find your local representative at countryfinancial.com.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
So how do you want it? Derrick Henry, you like the way that things are going so far? At what point do they need to figure out a plan B? That's the question that all of us are posing right now presently as we try to figure out what the hell the Tennessee Titans do to make it not look like it's looked so far, where the running game is not nearly as effective as it needs to be for a team that's, almost entirely built to run the football, doesn't have a second pitch at this point. Are they able to drop back and play the passing game, or are the offensive line deficiencies such that they will not be able to do that well either? It can't be that it's week. It's week 2. It can't be just scrap the whole thing. Let's start talking about the draft. I'd rather punch myself in the throat. Lucas, can you imagine if we started doing mock drafts if they lose to the Raiders?
I will walk out of this control room. You have to come back here and produce yourself.
If we started doing mock draft stuff in week 3, I'd probably, I don't know what, that self-harm is on the table. But what can their best plan B be? Does anybody out there have a feasible solution for what they have? Because I want you to listen to this Cosell audio. Greg Cosell of NFL Films talking about how easy it is to blame the coaches for what the coaches are currently working with. Now, to a certain extent, there's a philosophical approach, which is why it looks the way that it does. But when you consider what the roster looks like, the personnel problems are, I think, a bigger issue.
It's why going back, years and years ago, old timers, of which I am, will remember when the Rams had Eric Dickerson, arguably one of the greatest runners in the history of the NFL. And yet the Rams did not have a passing game. So when they would get to the playoffs and play really good defenses that shut down Eric Dickerson, as great as he was, they didn't have anything else to do that could really work. So the question is, what's next if it doesn't work? Because there's a couple of issues here. It's easy to rip the coaches now. That's easy, okay? But here's what they're working with. And I'm telling you what the tape shows. You know that what I say is based on tape. This is not an emotional statement for me, Buck. You know that. They don't have a very good offensive line. They have no team speed on offense, 0 team speed on offense. It's very, very hard to compete in the league with no team speed on offense. So if your running back, as great as he is and can be any given week, is not breaking explosive runs, where do the big plays come from? There's no team speed.
That make you feel better about it? Where's the plan B coming from? Because I can't for the life of me figure out what they do other than completely change the way that they play. I don't think that's on the radar. Let's go to Alex in Nashville, who's next. Hello, Alex.
Hey, how you doing, Buck?
I'm good.
I got two things for you. What are your thoughts if we lose Sunday to the Raiders, when Braves would hand over play calling duties to Tim Kelly? And then my plan B is to promote Tim Kelly, kind of demote Todd Downing, and open up the passing play, because what Tim Kelly did with the Texans last year was pretty impressive with David Mills and Brandon Cooks. And then run Henry up the middle, open up the passing game and get manageable manageable second and third downs.
Thanks for the call, Alex. Does it not concern anybody else that Tim Kelly is also a part of these game plans? Like for as bad as the coaching allegedly or is being alleged to be, it's not like Tim Kelly is not involved. Now, I did think it interesting. If you were listening into the second hour, because we did carry a part of Todd Downing's press conference live when he said, or he was asked the question, and I can't remember by who. What have you learned since your time as a coordinator in Oakland? Well, he gave a couple of different things, but one of them is that he hopes that he is, in this stage of his career, more collaborative. Like he said, he used to shut his door and just kind of put his head down and try to figure everything out by himself. Now, the Raiders staff got fired for reasons beyond Todd Downing, even though that's the thing that a lot of Titans fans like to pin it on. It's the lure of John Gruden And the fact that he shares a similar haircut with Mark Davis warranted a 10-year, $100 million contract. Well, nobody bothered to check his emails.
Things were not good. Things were not good.
They're not good.
It was
no.
Derek Carr's worst year as a pro. Would he have been fired? Maybe, probably. Did he get fired because of that? No, it's because of John Gruden.
But here's the thing. I think that for Downing, the collaboration has been forced upon him by Vrabel. Tim Kelly's existence is a sign to me that said, "Hey, bud, you need to have an extra set of eyes on this thing, because whatever you're doing, and we don't know what percentage of the work he's doing himself as opposed to being collaborative. That's not something that they're going to tell us, and we don't have access to the meeting rooms that way. But like Tim Kelly is involved in the offensive game plan, and yet the offense continues to look this way because their offensive line stinks. Now, I think that the biggest question that I have is that it's something that Lucas brought up earlier. Where was the team speed when they were out here, making plays in 2019 and turning things around and heading to the AFC Championship game? Where was the team speed in 2020 where they go out of their way to be the best offense in franchise history in the Titans era, with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry for 2,000 yards. I think the team speed was at the time Derrick. And Derrick's offensive line situation in 2020 wasn't great. 2019 was probably the best version of Lawan, Saffold, Ben Jones, and Nate Davis that we've seen. It was Dennis was the starting right tackle in 2019, Dennis Kelly.
I believe he was during that playoff run.
That sounds
he
right.
had a touchdown against Kansas City.
Well, that just means that he was on the field as an eligible player. It doesn't mean I can't remember if he was the star. I'm pretty sure he was, though.
Yeah, who else would it have been?
I can't. No. This was pre-Dylan Radins, pre-Isaiah Wilson's. Nobody but Dennis. I think that the team speed stuff is a really, really interesting conversation. But I mean, Greg's right. Like, they don't have anything right now. They don't have anything that indicates speed. Explosiveness off the line of scrimmage is something that Treylon Burks can do. They probably need to involve Treylon Burks more heavily in the game plan as they continue to progress. I would imagine that they're kind of treating the first quarter of the season as an expanded preseason with games that count, and the results have been unpleasant. They have time to adapt this thing. Do they have the personnel to be able to do it effectively, though? Remains the question. 615-737-1045 is the number. How about Jack in Nashville up next?
What do you say, Big Buck?
How we living?
Hey, man, right at the foot of the cross, my friend. Hey, let me tell you something. Just putting all the blame on Downing and the coaching and all this, that's a bunch of horse pucky, man. What we have problems with is our upper management having the guts to bring in the talent to win football games. To win football games in the NFL, you have to have more than one star. We've got one star. That's Derrick Henry. Can you imagine if we had Von Miller instead of Buffalo, how different that game would have been Monday night? We need stars, and our management is too cheap. I mean, we didn't even give A.J. Brown a viable offer. That was disgusting and disgraceful.
So I think that I understand the sense that Jack has, but they did pay Harold a lot of money, and there's nothing they can do about a non-contact ACL tear in a Wednesday practice before week 1. Like, that's just horrendous timing. So they did go out and pay a premium pass rusher. It's just one that they already had in-house, their best one. Now, Bud Dupree, we'll see if he ends up practicing today. He did not yesterday, as they wait final evaluations on Lawan and Dupree specifically. Here's the thing, though, about the Titans, because I actually had somebody on the sidelines of the Bills game ask me this question. Why didn't they do more to spend? Why didn't they take the Rams approach? Why didn't they go above and beyond? Why didn't they do the thing that the Bucs do with voidable years in contracts and, move the money down the line? Who cares about 5 years when you can win a Super Bowl now? Go pay people. The Titans ownership group does not have Glazer family money or Kroenke family money. In order to go and overpay for these incredibly talented veteran acquisitions that a lot of these teams are making, you have to have that cash on hand, that guaranteed money on hand. It has to be an escrow. It's the reason. Remember when Mark Davis traded away Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack because they flatly couldn't pay them on their contract extensions? It is a part of the equation. And also, there seems to be a philosophical approach because they could have paid AJ. And something, we've talked about this before. Both parties are to blame, but it is the job of the management to figure out how to work around the star player in today's NFL. I don't care whether you think he's a diva or not. He's better than anybody else you have, bar none. He doesn't fix all the problems. He didn't play offensive line. He's not going to be able to rush the passer in the absence of Harold, but he does give you explosive playability that you currently lack on the roster just yet.
By the way, Puka corrects us. Jack Conklin was still with the team in 2019. He was the starting right tackle during that playoff run.
Was he?
Yeah.
My God,
I know.
Are we so far removed from that offensive line group?
Oh, yeah. Lawan, Saffold, Jones, and then who at right guard? I guess Nate Davis at right guard.
Nate
Jack
didn't
Conklin.
start the year, but it was Jamil Douglas,
Right,
and then
that's
Jamil
right.
Douglas was terrible. Terrible.
One of the best O-lines in football that year.
Yeah, but see how quickly it goes? Like, poof, 3 years ago.
Talk about Dennis Kelly as your swing tackle.
Yeah, which explains why he was on the field and eligible to catch a touchdown pass and did so against the Chiefs. All right, let's go to Ryan in Lebanon up next.
Hey, Buck, love the show, man.
Thank you.
Plan B, I think, was Deontay Foreman, and that's why everybody was so mad when they let him go in the offseason. Would love to hear about your thoughts on that. Thanks, Buck.
Thank you for the call. No, not viable. You can't pay two Derrick Henrys that way.
Plan B wasn't Deontay Foreman because
it's Hassan Haskins.
It's the same offense.
I mean, Hassan Haskins on the roster is something I feel fine about as opposed to Deontay Foreman. We just haven't seen the larger sample size of Deontay Foreman.
Is Deontay Foreman the difference between 0-2 and 1-1 or 2-0 this year for the Titans? No.
Well, you know who else is 0-2? Deontay Foreman's Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that is true.
So,
that is true. There's a few winless teams in the NFL so far.
Well, there's 5 0-2 teams and 7 teams without wins because the damn Colts and Texans with that awful tie in week 1.
Well, and, we talk about all these O-line problems. The Bengals are one of those 0-2 teams, the defending AFC champs, whose entire offseason was predicated on fixing the offensive line.
They paid guys, too.
And it's dreadful.
It's not good. He's still getting hit like all hell. Some of those sacks he causes himself, but not as much as he's taking. Ooh, let's go to Chase in Nashville next. Going once for Chase.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. You got it.
You got me? All right. So we all know, Titans fans, we know that we run to establish the pass. My plan B is to pass to establish the run. Instead of play action, let's run some draw plays. And if I've known this for 3 years, I'm hoping a defensive coordinator has figured out that we like to run play action. So I'm going to say pass to establish the run.
So it's an interesting point. Now, I'm not gonna deign to tell the coaching staff which kind of plays, which formations they should run. I obviously don't know as much as an NFL coach does, even though sometimes I'd like to think so. Now, situationally, you don't have to be paid millions of dollars to understand certain things are dopey, like the 3rd and 1 chig play. But so pass to set up the run. But here's the thing, right? Because AFC South teams are already on to this. And with Shaq, a.k.a. Darius Leonard, the Colts linebacking core bites so rarely on play-action passes because they play the Titans twice a year. Quantifiably. I had the stat from The Athletic a couple of weeks ago. Perhaps I'll be able to find it by the end of the show. But there is such a reticence by Colts linebackers, no matter who the opponent is, to bite on play-action passes because Derrick Henry, they've done it so many times against Derrick Henry, it has caused them to basically sit back and wait. Now, that degree of hesitancy can also hurt them, but not as often as the Titans have hurt them using the play action to suck the linebackers in because Derrick Henry is such a force to be reckoned with, or has been in years past. Now, I just, to drop back the way that they would need to kind of make up for a lack of Derrick volume, they don't have the group in front of either of them to do it. They don't, flatly. I mean, Jamarco Jones going on IR, the guy hasn't done anything for this team anyway. All but swing at Taylor Lewan during one practice one day during training camp. Other than that, he's been injured the entire time, and now he's on injured reserve. So their situation is difficult because it's not like they're better. Dennis Daly was the best available offensive lineman. He has substantial experience at left tackle and still himself gave up more pressures than Taylor Lewan has in his last 9 starts. Tough scene. David in Murfreesboro is next.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Doing well.
Well, I've listened to everybody talk, and I think my take, and you might find this pretty crazy, but, Malik Willis has shown in the preseason and in the game where he came in the other night against Buffalo, he can run to get outside the pocket. So my plan B at this point would be to either A, open up the passing game for Tannehill, put some trust, get some wide receivers downfield, and B, to bring in Malik Willis and almost have like a 2-quarterback set. Malik Willis opens up the play action. He opens up the RPO because he can get outside the pocket when he's being pressured. But that's my take. See what you guys think.
Did anything about the Malik experience make you feel good on Sunday?
Looks a lot different than it did in the preseason. And
you say laced with. What do you mean?
You always do this to me, laced with venom.
No, I thought you were being serious. Or I thought you were being sarcastic.
No.
Seriously sarcastic.
No, that was not sarcastic. Did it not look different than the preseason?
I mean, he's still running out of the back of the pocket. He's still, he is throwing more, I guess, than he did in the Baltimore game when they pulled him. But, I don't know. He hit a linebacker directly in the chest on his first passing attempt.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think. Has there been a successful 2-quarterback system in the NFL? I can't think of a single one. Not in recent memory. Perhaps, going back to previous decades of football. But in modern era NFL football, has anybody run a 2-quarterback set?
No, you just have packages with Taysom Hill, right? Or Trey Lance when Jimmy G is the starter.
Taysom counts. Taysom does count. Didn't somebody else have a poor man's Taysom Hill running around back there for a while? I can't remember. Taysom Hill wildly overcompensated for what it is that he produces on a regular basis.
Someone had a Grayson Mill.
That's a terrible joke.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, wasn't
it? What was that? What struck you with such inspiration to come with confidence to the microphone with what? Braysom Hill?
I'm an artist. It just comes to you.
Something did.
Take some calls.
Okay. Let's see. One more for the opportunity to win Titans Raiders tickets. How about Mark and Madison up next?
Love the show, Buck. I always get to listen to it on the podcast on the way home. I love it.
Thank you.
So I would do some things that Tannehill already knows how to do. I would do a lot of the no-huddle offense. He did that at Texas A&M. He's done that everywhere he's gone. I would open it up a little bit, and they need to throw it down the field at least 5 times a game. Whether or not it's completed or not, they need to do something because everybody just kind of comes up, and these 5-yard runs and just hoping they're going to turn into touchdowns just aren't working anymore. My plan B is do more no-huddle.
Okay. Thanks for the call. I think no huddle and empty sets, it does get, it's a little different than college. Like we talk about with Tennessee and Heupel, the best advantage that they have is, one, a quarterback that can execute in the kind of scheme that Josh Heupel runs, but also just the pure speed that it takes to run damn near 3 plays per minute the way that they do. Yards per attempt is something that I am curious about with the Titans, where they rank right now as far as average yards per attempt among qualified quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill, he's top 10. They're pushing the ball. 7.2 yards per attempt. That's top 10 in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, 1. Lamar, 2. Tua, 3. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Russell, Justin Herbert, Wentz, Rodgers, Tannehill, top 10. So they're kind of doing it, but it's not working. They don't. He's attempting passes further than the average quarterback, further than 12. How many total qualified quarterbacks? There's 33 qualified quarterbacks on this since Dak Prescott and Trey Lance have been hurt. But Yeah, it's not like they're not trying to push the ball down the field further than normal, the way that it seems that the caller was alleging that they were. All right, we'll figure out who's going to go to the Titans-Raiders game during a commercial break. Last call for phone calls, and we will do some polls to wrap up the show. Welcome back. Wrapping up the show. Last call for phone calls. Get a few more in here before we do some polls and head out for the day. Big show tomorrow. John Reed makes his triumphant return. He's going to get us hyped for Gator Hate Week. Well, I guess it's not even Gator Hate Week anymore. It's almost Gator Hate Day. I'm excited for this trip, buddy. I'm looking forward to going to Knoxville this weekend.
I want to see you at some point because I just truly don't think you have any idea what you're in for, and I want to see how you consume it.
Were you planning to ignore me and avoid me otherwise?
I mean, buddy, game day in Knoxville this Saturday is going to be a madhouse, and
I know.
Finding people might be a difficult thing.
I understand, and I have several other places that I need to stop. So if I see you, I'll see you.
Yeah, we both got places to be.
What a couple of D-bags we sound like, honestly.
Yep.
Okay, very
typical.
Good. It does seem to be a trend. How about Joe in Nashville up next? Hello, Joe.
Hey, Buck, Lucas, long-time caller, first-time listener. I just wanted to say, plan B for the Titans. We've got to, you got to do what the fans want. And, it looks like we're going to be punting a bunch. So I think that means we bring back Brett Kern. I'm going to let you all go. Have a good one.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Just surrender. Surrender is the solution. Oh, God. Ryan Stonehouse was on the show today. He's leading the league in punting. Now, maybe that's in average net punt yards. Maybe that's because they're punting more often than the average team. But the punting has not been the issue at this point. First-time listener, long-time caller.
Love that.
Bravo. Who's this next one?
I don't know. I haven't taken it. Why, you want to roll the dice?
Well, I mean, that goes so well for us normally. It just says anonymous.
Patch me in. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Who are you? Hello.
Hi, this is Chauncey. I'm on I-40 East.
Okay. What you got for us?
Hey, I wanted to make a comment. So in the last several years, Ryan Tannehill has just as many, if not more, fourth-quarter comebacks as anybody. And it goes to show that in four-down situations, he can move the ball down the field. Maybe the Titans should play the game in stages and first try to get to the 50 as if they need a field goal to win the game. And then maybe after that, get to the 50, play it like you got to get a touchdown in 4 downs and go for it on 4th down sometimes instead of always punting, playing the 3 downs to get 10 yards and then punt if you don't get 10. That's all I got.
Thanks for the call. 615-737-1045. Who's that? Is it a coach in like Georgia? The high school coach that never punts? Like he just goes for it on every 4th down?
I want to say Arkansas. It's a school in Arkansas. Yes, because they played Ravenwood, I believe. They've played Ravenwood recently.
That would be fun.
Onside kicks every time. They never punt. I mean,
maybe not the onside
time.
kick every time. But I'd be curious. I need to look up their tendencies on 4th down, how often they're going for it compared to the rest of the league, and what kind of the yardage situations are. What is Slay doing in the chat right now? Look at him. Shouldn't he be asleep right now? I don't give a damn. Go Vols is all it says. 17 different messages in the YouTube chat. Give me the polls.
Down goes Frazier.
This music might be triggering to some people.
Frazier. The polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's the segment where bias takes over and nuance goes to die. Now, here's your favorite Buck Rising Show correspondent, Lucas. Pan, make that poll Zika.
Haven't they suffered enough to this music?
Not intentional, I promise. They're presented by Two Rivers Ford. You can custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They will deliver it to you when it gets manufactured. By the way, shout out to Andrew from Jerry's Roadside for coming and fixing the back left tire on my Ford, which blew out this morning on my way to work. And I appreciate Andrew and his team for doing that so I don't have to.
No free ads.
Can the Titans' passing attack operate independently of the rushing attack? I know how to change a tire, by the way. There's just a lot of things going on. 65% say no.
I can't change. No, God, no.
Come on.
What? Change a tire? Hell no. Buddy, I don't even. There are certain things that I should probably know how to do just for the sake. Like my mailbox at home. Dara was complaining about my mailbox. It won't shut all the way. And she's like, I wish we could do something about that mailbox. I'm like, yeah, I sure wish we could.
Sure do.
I can't do anything around the house. Much change a tire? Are you drunk?
It's a pretty basic thing, man.
Yeah, not for me.
65% say the Titans passing attack cannot operate independently of the rushing attack.
Hasn't so far. We'll see.
Who's been the best quarterback in the NFL through 2 weeks? Mahogany says Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen.
Jalen Hurts has been good. Tua statistically is up there. I think that a lot of this stuff so far predicated on scheme as much as it is on quarterbacks. Josh Allen, though. Oof.
Can you give me your best crack at the top three, the three leading passers in the NFL as far as yards through the first 2 weeks?
I know Tua's up there.
Tua's number one.
Tua's number one. Number two is...
Don't want to spend too much time on it because you're never going to get it.
Number two is Jalen Hurts.
Carson Wentz.
Oh.
Number three is Joe Flacco.
What the hell is that?
Carson Wentz thrown for 650 yards. Flacco, 616.
God bless.
I'm
glad I didn't know that.
What is the number one cure for battered Vols syndrome? Elijah says beating Florida and then beating LSU. Titans for Life says beating Florida badly. George submits a gif of whiskey being poured into a shot glass. Ben says bowl wins over Big Ten teams.
That's pretty good.
Ghost of a Land Shark defense on Twitter says mustard.
I have heard that I should wear a mustard costume because famously the banana suit is something that makes an appearance from, well, it hasn't in about a decade, thank God. I don't think I could fit into it. But yeah, you look at the situation. Mustard on deck should anything go wrong in the fourth quarter against Florida.
What's the easier fix right now for the Titans? Team speed or O-line? 62% say team speed.
Yeah, probably. If Derek just breaks one, man, you'll feel so much better about what they look like. If just to see that he can do it longer than, I think so far it's 18 yards. It's 2 games. There's a lot of time to go, and I do think that their offensive line typically does start to play better as the year wears on. But man, their margin for error is already so thin. Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. Back tomorrow with John Reed, Coach Dave McGinnis, and Jason Fitz of ESPN. So we get you ready for the Vols and Gators, Titans and Raiders. I swear I didn't mean to make that rhyme. Talk to you tonight on Prime Time. If I don't catch you then, radio show starts at 10 a.m. right here on 104.5 The Zone.